Okay, so what we're going to do here is, on this grid that we have down below, the topographic map above, we're going to create a topographic profile that goes from point C to point D. To do that, the first thing that we're going to do is when we take a look at the contour lines, we'll notice that our contour lines are getting smaller as we go up. And what that means is when you have consecutive contour lines that get smaller as you go up, you're looking at a hilltop. In this case, Patty Hill is labeled. It's a hill, so we can see that it's a hill. But there's some other clues on here that tell us that we're going uphill, and that's if we take a look at Taylor Pond right here. When we look at the contour lines, this index contour of 100 points uphill. Contour lines bend upstream when they cross a stream or a valley. So whenever you see a contour line, the direction that it points is uphill, which would mean that Blue Creek right here is flowing in the opposite direction that the contour lines point, and Blue Creek is actually flowing into Taylor Pond. So if asked the direction that Blue Creek is flowing, we would say that it flows to the southwest. Now, as far as our topographic profile goes from point C to point D, what we're going to do is we're going to take a sheet of scrap paper and we're going to place it along line CD, and we'll put a tick mark where point C is. And then we'll also get the elevation of point C. In this case, it's an index contour with an elevation of 100 feet. We know it's feet because it tells us that down here on our contour interval. Our contour interval is 20 feet, which means our lines are 20 feet apart, or the change in elevation between consecutive contour lines is 20 feet. So point C is at an elevation of 100 feet. My next contour line is here, and then remember, our contour lines were pointing uphill, which means when we go from point C towards Patty Hill, we're going uphill, and since our contour interval is 20 feet, if point C is 100, then the elevation of the next contour line is 120 feet, so we would just put 120 feet. Then we have 140 feet here. Our next contour line is 160 feet. Now we notice as we follow the line and it goes across, it doesn't cross any other contour lines, but our 160-foot contour line goes back underneath the page, which means this right here is 160 feet. And then, if I just lift this up, you can see that once we get here, now we're going to start going back down the hill over to point D, which is here. Point D being downhill from Patty Hill would be 140. Now between these 160s, we notice, since we have a contour interval of 20 feet, if there were a point of 180 feet or higher on the inside of Patty Hill, there'd be another contour line. Since there's not another contour line on the inside of there, it tells us that the highest possible elevation would be 1 foot less than the next contour line, which would be 180 feet. So the highest possible elevation we have in here is 179 feet. The lowest possible elevation would be 1 foot higher than our last contour, which was 160 feet, so it would be 161 feet. So we're going to have to represent this hilltop on our profile when we draw it. Now to draw our profile, all we're going to do is we're going to take our tick marks with our values, and we're going to come down to the graph. And you can see that our tick marks fit right here on the graph, and a real accurate way to do this is when we look at point C and point D, they're always going to be against the y-axis of our profile. So if I just slide this up, I can put an X right here for my first point. If I move this up now to 120, I can see that my 120 goes, let me start that over. My C and D are going to line up along the x-axis, and all we're going to do is we're going to put a dot directly above those points. So, as I said earlier, I'm just going to slide this up here and put an X directly above where point C is. The next point was 120. We put an X directly above that. Our next point, 140, can put an X directly above that. And then we have our first 160. Then our second 160, and our D was 140, so we move this down here. and then we put point D right here. So now the last point, it's always the last point, is to connect the plots to complete the profile. Always make sure that you read the entire instructions when you're creating a topographic profile. A lot of people will plot the points and then they'll forget to connect them with a line. And when we connect our points with a line, we're going to start over here on the left. And remember, when we get up to this 160 point, if I go back to our map here, we were right here at 160 feet. Every point in here is above 160 feet, but not quite to 180 till we get over here where it's 160 again. So now when we connect the points on our profile, all we have to do to indicate that hilltop is to just show a line that's between 160 but not quite to 180. And as long as you break the plane of this line for 160 and you don't touch the 180, you're good, because we don't know exactly what the highest elevation is on the inside of Patty Hill as far as our line goes, so we just have to represent that hilltop on our topographic profile. And that's how you draw a topographic profile of point CD. Good luck, guys.